art making in students. But you wanted a wonderful faculty of artists too. Now, you're not going to have that if you don't give them the resources to make their art. And those resources are rehearsal times, budget, and so at its worst, it can become a competition between students and faculty for space. And well, we are all competitive for space and rehearsal time and all that. But if it's balanced, it's acceptable. It's never what you really want, particularly because it's so successful here and there's so much choreography going on and there's so much production going on that it's always a wrestle to get it all scheduled properly. But I think that would come up occasionally. Well, and my idea was that every now and then, I got this expression from my grandfather whom I never knew, but my mother would tell me that when something was going wrong, either in his community or in his church or something, he'd say, it's time for a mass meeting of the citizens. I'll go home and, man, I think I better have a mass meeting of the citizens. So we would all meet in 0403, I remember a couple of times, and say, okay, I know what is really bothering you is this thing about the faculty gets this rehearsal space and I don't get this rehearsal space. And I said, no, I'm going and I'm hearing from the faculty, those students get this rehearsal space and I've got to do my piece if they want to dance in it. You know? So there was always that going on, but mass meetings of the citizens help. It helps because it just airs everything out. And at least, you know, the thing I like so much, one of the many things about Wiley Housewright, the dean, when I would go to him and talk about an issue or a demand I thought I had to make to him, I went away from those meetings always knowing I had been listened to. Now that's really important. I mean, you can accept some bad stuff sometimes if you know at least you were listened to and thought about it was thought about. And so we did that. And one time I remember the students said that they wanted to know, be careful what you ask for, that they wanted to know all about the budget. So I thought, okay, cool. So we had a mass meeting with the citizens up in 0403, and they all signed up for them. And I told them everything about the budget. Well, I mean, after about an hour and a half, there were audible snores. People were falling out going to sleep. They were so bored, you know. But it helped. You know, they never asked for it again. Because they heard what they wanted to hear, and then it was just too much. That's part of the balancing act, because if you're sharing, people need to know the truth, and so. But your job is to find out, are you just going to beat them over the head with all that, you know, that you're having to deal with? Because that's not their job. Their job is to be out in the studio teaching or making dances or learning and making dances or whatever. But you have to be honest with them, but it's just a question of how much. And I remember one time I learned this was an embarrassing way to learn, but I remember that we had a little faculty-student gathering or something, and the students, this is always very dangerous, the students were going to do little imitations of the faculty. Very dangerous, trying to avoid that. When I was being roasted, one of the students, she had dressed like me and so forth, and I was saying, oh, I'm fried, I'm just fried, you know, and I thought, oh my God, that's the image I'm projecting, is that I have so many problems. That's a painful lesson, but it was really good. No, you know. So there's the juggling act of how much you want to do. The other, you want to share. Another thing, and then we'll get back to the questions, is I think it's very important to keep very, very close to that which you administer. And by that, I mean the discipline. To stay mixed up with dance, or with art making, or whatever. To stay in it. Because then you know what you are administering. And one of the things that happened, my office was in, what is it, you know, I don't know the new numbers at all, but the top, the big studio up top.
405.
5, well it was 403 then, and my office was at what would be the northeast. And it was a much bigger studio, because they made another studio now. But my office was right up there. It was in a tree. I always thought I had a nest, you know, because I could see the spring birds and so forth. But it was up there, and to therefore walk through at least 2 studios to get to the bathroom. So I love watching classes anyway, so I walked through studios a lot. That was one way of keeping in touch. The best way was that I continued teaching all the time I chaired. And I also, I never went a year without making a piece. The difference is when I first started back in those days when there were 3 of us, I made lots of pieces. One, because I loved it, but 2, because we didn't have choreographers. Now you have them running out of your ears, both faculty and students. So that you don't have that problem. You have the problems that come with that, but you don't have that. But even up till the last year and a few years after that, I continued to work choreographically and make pieces. There's nothing more than that. I mean, you're staying so much in the material, and that's a way of sensing what is going on. And I think that's terribly important. One of the images that I've used, and I'll probably, for those of you that we've been together in classes, if I'm repeating myself for this, please just bear with me, but there was a movie, they're too young to know this. There was a movie called Dr. Strangelove, maybe you saw it on reruns. And in Dr. Strangelove, it's an 8-hour movie, the general sits up at his desk and punches a red button. He doesn't see human beings at all. And continents away, 50,000 people die. You know, and so that kind of punch button, that's overly dramatic, but that kind of punch button administration scared me. You know, I don't want to be so distant. And the way to stay informed is stay informed with your discipline and, of course, the people that you are working with. And when they finally did say your department, and people had just referred to me on campus as the head of dance, but and I became officially a chair, which again, that was just a title. My colleagues, a lot of my colleagues in these groups, these members of CODA said, well, Nancy, you'll have, you know, as the department grows more and more and more, you'll have to give up teaching, and you'll have to give up your art life. And I just didn't see what I did, so I didn't. Because I did, what I did was, well, the end I was making 1 piece a year, not a lot of pieces a year. And that was fine. And the plate was full with a lot of other things that I needed to be doing. And if that's not your passion, then don't do it. But find some way to always be in the stuff itself.
You're doing right down. You're doing right down the list. You're doing right down the list. That was, as an administrator, how you balance your job with still being creative. Were you able to make time for yourself and creating? If so, how? Did it ever fall to the bottom of your list?
Toward the end, it got more and more and more and more to the bottom because I just wasn't, you know, the assignment of responsibilities that they go out.
OR. Sorry.
Okay, that's like OPS. But my OR had something like 90% administration, and 10% teaching and creative work. Creative work is something squished in there.
Or would you say that was close to the end? Is that there's something in that?
That probably, well, they ended up not being chair, but I mean, I stopped making. I'm trying to think when I made more than 1 piece. Probably, I remember when Linda first joined the faculty, she and I did, well, she was always choreographing, but she and I did one program where we had a lot of pieces of our own work on it. And one of the things that happened was that the faculty said, well, we need more performance of it. We need our own work. And I said, okay, let's have a faculty concert. So we scheduled a faculty concert. This was not done this glibly, you know, we had to find the money and all that. And they just reneged. They just said, so we can't possibly, you know, like this changed quickly. But this they thought, well, we'll have a faculty concert. But I said, well, I am going to a faculty concert. So I just did a concert of all my own work. It was heaven. It didn't rock, you know, it didn't shake the apples out of anybody's tree. I had it in the summertime. upstairs in the vault, what we call the studio theater, and I called it 1 hour of dance. And it was over in exactly, 59 minutes. And it got to be very popular, so I did it the second year. And then they came and said, we want to have, we want to do one, and so then they started doing it. And this is going to be, these are individual anecdotes. So you find a different bunch of people, it's a different time, it's a different age. And by the way, we had no technology. Can you really believe that? Okay, let me tell you a really shocking fact. There was a time when I taught a production course. Now, I am famous for going backstage and everything in clothes. Russell used to keep me away from because we didn't have a Russell, and we didn't have technology. But those are the old days. And then that changed, and it was wonderful. And with those changes come a lot of adjustments. Next question.
On the resources, you talked about Louie have to raise money, but this is, I'm paraphrasing, I'm a pianist, but yeah, sorry. Finding the money, it feels as a chair, what does that mean to locate financial resources?
Well, it's not what.
Grants, advocacy,
Yeah, but the advocacy that I had to do in those days of building budget was not the kind of very, very complex advocacy you're doing with Nancy. It was local advocacy more than anything else. It was building a case to the dean, and then building a case, and it was not considered proper to go over the dean's head, so you had to work that to get permissions to go and ask for money to bring in Javelin, for instance, in the faculty. And building a case, I guess the best way to for us to build a case was to get extremely respected in terms of what we put on the stage. And we did once a year every bit. You and I talked about that. Yeah. And then we did other concerts, sometimes in Altman, and sometimes here in what we call our vault theater. And that was 403, which we made into a theater. And that began to bring a lot of people. But it's just material we were putting out there, and I say this with no sense of bragging, because it was the result of a lot of people's artistic contribution. It was good, and it would bring in audiences. And when you would say that, and one of my big arguments when I would go to the dean after we went into the School of Visual Arts, which later became School of Visual Arts and Dance, and then I would refer to it in public as the School of Dance and some other things. And then he called me and said, you've got to stop doing that. But then he said, you made it official, you call it School of Visual Arts and Dance. It's now the College of Visual Arts Theater Dance, because the university has, I used to say university reorganizes every Tuesday, but this is its latest iteration. But to get